So welcome to Gaslight Gathering's Tea and Fashion Show, Women of Sports and Leisure. The dictionary defines leisure as a time free from the demands of work or duty, when one can rest, enjoy hobbies or sports, and freedom from time-consuming duties, responsibilities, or activities. In the 1800s, work inside and outside the home took up much more time than it does today, and working people had far less leisure time. There was little money to spare and no radio, television, or movie theaters. People found all sorts of ways to enjoy what free time they had. While the Victorians dreamt of improvement and progress through work, the years between 1837 and 1901 saw the greatest development in leisure pursuits ever witnessed. The period gave a more structured approach to leisure, with the creation of parks, libraries, art galleries, and museums. In most large towns, there were theaters and music halls. Men played or went to watch rugby, football, or cricket. Technology changed as well, allowing the production of cheap books, newspapers, and musical instruments. Class differences also existed in leisure activities. Although the lower classes attended the same events as the upper class, they had their own entrances and locations within music halls, restaurants, etc. Various kinds of theatrical entertainment was enjoyed. The upper and middle classes would enjoy going to the theater, opera, and concerts. The music hall was very popular with the working class. Music halls showed a variety of different acts, like singers, comedians, jugglers, acrobats. Some activities were popular, such as music and dancing, and they were enjoyed by everyone. Dances would vary in size and setting, from the grand balls of high society to a simple dance hall or a village dance in a barn, for instance. Every household that could afford it had a piano, and the daughters of the household would learn to play and sing to entertain themselves and the family and company. Reading was another pastime that was enjoyed by all classes. The upper and middle classes had the most money to spend on books, newspapers, and magazines, but there were plenty of cheap publications, for instance, the Penny Dreadfuls and the Shilling Shockers. Lurid stories of murder, crimes, and supernatural happenings, which were extremely popular with many of the lower classes. The mid-1800s was when the first public libraries opened, putting books within the reach of the poor to a greater extent. There were other forms of public entertainment, like circuses, fairs, waxwork shows, etc. Some of these might not be regarded as quite respectable by the upper and middle classes, but they were enjoyed by many people. Boating was all the rage in the late 1800s, and people of all classes enjoyed taking a boat out on the river. With cheap railway fares, even a poor family might be able to hire a boat for the day. The wealthy often stayed on the river in houseboats, which were more like floating houses, and some of them had steam launches. The seaside was also very fashionable. A middle-class family might spend a holiday at a boarding house or hotel. A working-class family might have to make do with a day trip. Sports were played by all classes. Tennis, archery, and croquet were all popular games with the upper and middle classes, as they could be played on the lawn by both sexes and gave many opportunities for socializing. Horseback riding was a popular activity as well. The gentlemen enjoyed going shooting. The ladies did not normally shoot, but often followed the shooting party on horseback to watch the men. Once the hunt was completed, the party might gather for a picnic or indoor luncheon. The riding habit was in stark contrast to everyday fashion of the lace, bows, bustles, and ruffles. It was simplistic, understated, and masculine. The modern horsewoman of the time represents a turning point in the history of feminine dress, and the riding habit is one of the first sporting outfits designed especially for women. I'm wearing a Victorian riding habit circa 1883. It's shorter on the left side and longer on the right, and it's shaped to fit over the right knee. So let me show you how this works. I've never ridden a horse, so I don't. You can take pictures. It has this button right here, and you take it down. Oh. See how it's longer on that side? It's the same horse. Oh no. When you sit, no. This way. It'll very gracefully across the horse, and it's supposed to be even all the way around. Okay, so that's how that works. Because I right side down. Now to put it back up, I just go right around the back again. And this is Valerie in an Edwardian sewing gown. From the beginning of time, clothing has been sewn to cover our bodies. Many hours of work were required to construct them, but in the 1830s, the first functioning sewing machine was invented that changed women's lives. Hand sewing still remained a large portion of the process, but as the costs went down, they became more available to the average woman. Most of them began making their own clothing, where it didn't require as much time to construct them. As the years passed, it became more of a leisure activity for many of them. Valerie is wearing a 1905 Edwardian cotton summer gown she made using a new truly Victorian pattern. Her cotton voile fabric has rows of flowers on it, which she cut and sewed it together. It made a lovely chevron design in the front that was very desirable in these gowns. The softness of the skirt is supported by a ruffled petticoat underneath and flows gracefully in the back. Her waist is accented by a pink silk belt that points down in the front. Her neck has lace around the collar, and the cameo at her neck is a family heirloom. Her large lace hat is covered in pink flowers and ostrich feathers to finish her look. Valerie's gown is a style that's not as familiar to many of us. When ladies' silhouettes were in the S-bend shape with the powder pigeon chest bodice. After making the truly Victorian S-bend corset that goes with it, she discovered that women's bodies were not actually contorted into an S, but it was actually an illusion. She doesn't have to bend and says the corset is very comfortable. Her back is straight, but the bust is extending out and has a filler pad to poof them. Her corset cover has rows of lace to create the fullness of the powder pigeon chest look. In the back below her waist is a small bum pad that creates a small bustle. So from her neck out to her front and then to the back is the S shape. This style only lasted a couple years until the long, slim line silhouette started. Thank you, Val. Joanne is wearing a Victorian archery gown. By 1840, archery was very popular and was considered a graceful exercise which taught dexterity. Queen Victoria loved archery and was patron of the Society of St. Leonard's Archers. Women were allowed to practice archery alongside men. Archery was one of the first organized competitive sports for women, who were also included as members in many archery clubs and were allowed to compete in tournaments. Joanne is wearing a lovely polonaise in blue, gray, and cream striped cotton fabric. It has a basque back, which has an upper bodice section overlapping a lower section with poofs. The front closes to the waist and then falls open into 2 points with pleats at the sides. This style was very popular in the early 1870s, and the sleeve is a full-length pleated bell. With it, she's wearing a charcoal gray satin skirt which matches the stripe in her polonaise. When participating in outdoor sports, the skirt was usually darker in order to disguise any dirt, dust, or mud which the skirt might be dragged through. Archery was described by Mr. H.A. Ford, who said, "No exercise more healthy or more rational, or which returns more true gratification to the man who practices it. As an exercise for ladies, it brings all the muscles generally into healthy action, and is admirably suited to meet the requirements of the fairer sex, general and equal without being violent, calling the faculties both of mind and body into gentle and healthy play, while being graceful and elegant." Thank you, Joanne. Here's a special treat for us, Nancy, in her dog walking outfit. Dog walking is both a pastime and a profession involving the act of a person walking with a dog, typically from the dog's residence and then returning. This constitutes part of the daily exercise regime needed to keep a dog healthy. It also provides exercise and companionship for the walker. The dog as a pet has been popular through the centuries. The new wealthy merchant class wanted to emulate the lifestyle of the upper class and made the dog a must in their acquisitions. The inspiration for Nancy's 1896 walking suit came from a magazine, The Voice of Fashion. The three-piece ensemble consists of a skirt, cape, and blouse. The skirt and cape are done in black and white houndstooth, check rayon gabardine with the black soutache embellishments. The blouse is white lawn with the characteristic leg of mutton sleeves and lace trim. The hat is a rakish black straw, trimmed in several kinds of feathers and a ribbon cockade. He wants tea. The skirt is full in the back, but does not require hoops or bustle underpinnings, so allows a free range of motion. Perfect for walking for Elise. She is a shelter rescue, 5 years old, giant schnauzer mix, and a therapy dog trainee for Canine Support Team's Handicap Assistance Program. Thank you, Nancy. Here comes Ellen. The sport of badminton has its origins in ancient civilizations in Europe and Asia. In the 1600s, battledore and shuttlecock was an upper-class pastime in England and many European countries. Battledore and shuttlecock was simply two people hitting a shuttlecock backwards and forwards with a simple bat as many times as they could without it allowing to hit the ground. A contemporary form of badminton, a game called Puna, was played in India in the 1800s, where a net was introduced and players hit the shuttlecock across the net. British officers in the mid-1800s took this game back to England, and it was introduced as a game for the guests of the Duke of Beaufort at his stately home called badminton in England. His friends looked up, intrigued from their cups of Earl Grey, and gladly took up the racket. Naturally, they modified the game somewhat to fit in with their British sense of propriety, but essentially, it remained the same. Ellen is wearing a dark blue linen and silk walking skirt hemmed just above ankle length for ease of walking and running as she plays. It is paired with a long-sleeved white linen shirtwaist with pin tucks and a lower neckline than the older fashions of just a few years before. The relaxed neckline is accented with a flourished lace collar. Notice the sleeves are daringly rolled up to elbow length. A silk scarf around her bobbed head and low-heeled brown suede shoes complete the outfit, although she's wearing a hat today. Thank you, Ellen.